Hey, welcome to our Friday Night Live Stitch and Chat. Let's see if I can turn the comments on here. So if you guys are online, if you will let me know if everything sounds okay, because I'm doing something a little different, and I already frightened the household with it, and I'll tell you that story. It's pretty funny. But if everything sounds okay, let me know. If there's crazy echoes, let me know that too. And I see there's some little bit of haziness shadow. Hey, Caroline. Sounds okay. Excellent. Yay. Yay. I sound like myself. I'm glad you qualified it that way. I'm kind of okay. I'm mostly okay. Good, good. Hey, Pat. Hey, Rachel. Hey, Kathy. Hey, Barbara. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, hello, Melanie. Did you get home early today? Hey, Kathy. Hey, Rita. Hey, Nancy. Hey, Jill. Hey, Robbie. Hey, Judy. Yay. Hey, Linda. Hey, Sheila. Hey, Cynthia from Oregon. Hey, Rachel. Hey, Cheryl. Hey, Joanne from New Zealand. I do have an email from you that I saw that I have something to send you. Hey, Susan. Hello, Lelena. Hey, B. Hey, Inez. Hey, Kathy. Got a few Floridians on tonight. Hey, Kendra from Iowa. Getting your hair dyed while you watch. That's brave. Hey, Teal. You're not in the bathroom tonight. That's good. Yes, I saw that, Robbie. Thank you. Hey, Robin. I'll have it ready for you, Robbie. Yeah, so this has been a week for class stuff. So I've been trying to get the classes that are coming up here real soon pretty settled. Hey, Rita. Your husband says that we sound like Miss Nancy on the romper room. I love it. We're driving in. We're driving to the airport, so he's on too. Okay, well, hey, Greg. Romper room. That's been a while. Hey, from Rhode Island. Hey, JP. Driving to the aeropuerto. Hey, Ara. You got your silks. Yay. Your daughter's a stylist and you fit it in where you can. I don't blame you. I do not blame you. That was one of the more painful things about COVID was not being able to go get your hair taken care of. Me, I mean. Southeast Virginia, no stitching nut, cortisone shot in your left thumb because of arthritis. How did your cortisone shot feel, Patty? Like, I'm sure it helped once it was in there, but how did it feel going in? Hey, Allison. I'm asking because everybody said it was crazy painful. And I had one in my shoulder almost 2 years ago. And it really didn't hurt. But he did numb it before he put it in there. And it could be because my shoulder hurt so bad that I was just glad to get the shot. Oh, yours was painful. I'm sorry. I hope it helped once it was in there. Your gray has never been seen through it all. You're lucky, Melanie. Hey, Barbara from Etowah. Hey, Susan. Welcome, welcome. You see, you probably spy a little something special on the screen tonight. Yeah, Rachel, that's what everybody told me, and my guy did numb me first. He did something that numbed me, or it probably would have hurt really bad, and he put it from my back into my shoulder because I had a frozen shoulder, and I was actually able to use my arm afterward, and it didn't hurt. But I'm the only person that I've ever talked to, and I do talk to myself, like case in point, that didn't say what you said, that it was really painful. And I do have a high tolerance to pain, but not that high. Hey, from Kentucky. Hey, Lori. Allison had one in the knees, and it did hurt. I'm sorry they hurt. Hopefully, though, your thumb, that helped you. Neither one hurt for you, Kathy. Maybe your guy numbed you first, too. That's what mine did. So, I've been thinking about getting another one in my other shoulder because it hurts. I've been trying to tough it out. The only thing that helped the last time was just time. Nothing really helped. I mean, the cortisone shot made it not hurt, but it didn't make it get better. Had one in your elbow and your hip, and they weren't that painful. No pain for your knee or shoulder, no numbing. Well, Susan, you're pretty hardcore. You had a lot of shots. Hey, Sandra. They spray freeze. Yeah, he did something. He did something, and it just didn't hurt. The needle was huge. I saw the needle. But you know what? I wanted that shot. I was prepared for any pain. I wanted that shot because my shoulder hurt so bad, and I just couldn't move it. Um, from Alberta. Hey, Debbie. Miss Virginia was from Romper Room Lady. That's funny, Pat. Hey, Dixie. Happy Friday. You tried a massage. I tried massage too, and she was rough on me. I did everything I could. And honestly, I finally just stopped doing physical therapy and stuff. I did it a long time. And I stopped doing physical therapy and just started forcing myself to use my shoulder. And it finally got better on its own. And now my other one kind of hurts, but it hurts different, but we'll see. Anyway. And I got office supplies this week, and I didn't break my tailbone again. So last time I had to go pick up all the office supplies, I just fell over backwards. And I was guarding, I was trying to keep from hitting my head. Well, hey, Willa. Hey, Pat. Didn't remember it hurting when you had a shot in your knee. My shoulder took a year to get unfrozen. Took a year. We're talking about, yeah. I should stop complaining because it sounds like a lot of people had a lot worse stuff than me. Anyway, I'm not really complaining. Mine got better, but my other one's a little messed up. And it's just all happening after I turned 50. Hey, Kelly. You know, and everything they said about turning 50 was true. My vision went, you know, just, every day I wake up with something new that hurts. And I'm like, And I think back to my youth and I'm like, you know, if I had something that hurt like that in my 20s or 30s, I would have thought I was dying and I would have went to the doctor. And now I'm like, we'll see what happens. So it's awful. So something really funny happened when I was setting up tonight. Hey, Sharon. I was trying to put another camera on, which you'll see. I think you can see over here that I got it. Can you see this thing with my name on it over here and my hand over it? That is a second camera. And I finally figured out how to get that to work, I hope. And then I had to get the sound off. But when I first got it turned on, a sound was coming from both the camera and the computer, the laptop. And it sounded like, you know, those old movies where aliens invade and they make this really weird sound with the spacecraft. And it's like, I can't even make it, but it's really high pitched, horrible sound. And it sounds really creepy. Well, that's what happened. It was like the reverb going back and forth through the speakers. And I wasn't too worried about it because it was just my husband here and he was upstairs and I had the big door closed. And I figured he could hear it a little, but not a lot. But apparently they could hear it a lot. And so he came down the stairs and I heard him coming. And I hadn't figured out how to make it stop yet. And he comes in, he goes, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, why? Do you think we're getting invaded?" He goes, "No, it's just the cats are upset. I'm upset. It's just the whole house is just like crazy." And I was like, I guess it does hurt their ears. But it was pretty funny. So I got it fixed. So for a few minutes there, everybody was worried about what was happening in the Ponder field. So I think they thought we were getting invaded. Eat after 50 something things do break down or hurt. Yeah. Each year, I'm assuming that's what you said. Yeah, you're right about that. I'm 54. 53? 53 now. I'll be 54 later this year. And my husband's getting ready to turn 57, and I just don't know what to think about that. We're creeping closer to 60, and I don't think I'm ready for that. Just like, what? So, I mean, I'm glad to get there. Don't get me wrong. And I'd like to make it to, you know, well into my 80s. You love the squirrel. Good. But, yeah, it's, you know, I didn't mind turning 40. I liked it. I didn't mind too much turning 30. I really didn't like turning 24. I remember that because I was too old to go to the clubs and stuff. I felt like really old compared to, kind of my crowd. But Everett's just like, he's like 2.5 years older than me. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's going to be 60 one day, I mean, I want it, don't get me wrong, I want us all to make it. But I have to get used to that. And the other day he said he was 57. I said, no, no, you're not. He was talking to his mom or somebody. I'm sure she knew exactly how old he was. 60's better than 50's. Yeah, I think once I get there, I'll be okay with it. Um, but it's kind of backwards rule of anticipation. Anticipation's half the fun. It's not when you're looking at a big number on the thing. Once you get there, I'm sure I'll be fine with it. Like, I don't really mind being in my 50's. I love it. I loved being in my 40's. I was real happy. Um, haven't seen those ages for a long time. I hope I get the chance to look back on it. My mom died at 60, and at that point, every every sibling that she had died at 60 or younger, and that was a lot. It was three brothers and two sisters, I think, at that time. And in her whole group of siblings, which I believe there were seven, only one of them has made it past 60. Died of all different things. So, um, it for all of us, it was a little scary. Myself and my three siblings, it was a little scary. It's a little scary to approach 60 because of that. Because we're all like, my dad's side of the family, they all lived to be really quite old. A life well lived, I'll say. Except for one of them who died at 70. And all the others lived to be, like late 80s, 90s. And so all of us have always kind of felt that we were gonna, if we made it to 60, we might have a good chance to make it another 20 some, 25, 30 years. So that's the goal. But anyway, we'll get there. We need to be healthier. My other three siblings are already over 60. So the closest one to me is 8 years older. And she's already there. And she's looking really healthy. She's lost a bunch of weight and trimmed down and making me feel like I need to get on my treadmill, which is a good thing. So, um, anyway, so I did get the second camera working. So I don't know if you can see that over here. See my little fingers? And it might take me a minute to get the gist of where I am. It's kind of over to the left of my screen. Um, the goal is to live long and feel good. And that's that last part. You're right, Dixie Doodles. I need to feel good. And I do feel pretty good, but I need to lose some weight, as a lot of people do. I'll work on it. I will. So I did a couple things this week that I wanted to share with you. I messed something up pretty good. I showed it on Fiber Talk. I got to sit in on Fiber Talk the other day because they were short a person. But this is the little name tag that if you take the class with Susan this year, you get this name tag. And it's just kind of a freebie thing. And you can put on it whatever you want to, basically, except these first two bands here and the last band down here are from the small, or the sampler, I think, that Susan's getting ready to publish. And so this is what I did with mine. And I used this top band, and the second band, the red one, came from a Dutch sampler that Susan's getting ready to put out there called a Dutch Dalliance. We're just waiting for it to get through printing. And then everything else on here, the alphabets and the rows, the bands, came off of the Alice Ellen Usher Bristol sampler. So I just used the motifs and the alphabets to do my name and to do my city and stuff. And then I put the name of my shop on there. I was kind of copying Susan because she put her little name of her design company on there. And so I did that. I'd never thought about doing that, and I don't have one like that, so I thought I would do it. And I wanted to hem stitch the top and the bottom, and not so much the sides. I was going to do something different on the sides, but I wanted to hem stitch the top and the bottom, and I cut the bottom here. You see where I cut it? With the intention of, I had a thread pulled here and a thread pulled here. But I forgot that I needed a whole nother, width of it here, and then I would have my stud piece. And I know that we talked about this one time before, and I clearly did not listen to myself. But to make this work, you have to have pretty much the equal of whatever you've got in your hem to go on the back. And then you have a little stud piece. Well, I didn't have anything to go on the back, as you can clearly see. So I was going to try to just fake a hem and do some Stitch Witch and kind of iron it down. And then on Fiber Talk, probably one of you, it was somebody on the Fiber Talk, and it may be somebody that's here tonight, so just do a nun stitch. And I was going to do a nun stitch on the sides. And so I decided to just go ahead and do the nun stitch on that bottom. Now on the top, I hadn't cut it yet, and I still had room. So I had enough room to do the hem stitch. And so you can see, this is that extra piece I was talking about. You have to have enough fabric to cover up whatever you've got on the front side, on the back, so that you can catch it. You see these tiny little teeth bites here? That's where I caught it with the hem stitch. And you actually do the hem stitch from the back. So I made that dumb error, so I wanted to show you what I did. I actually did do the nun stitch, and I want to show you tonight how to do a nun stitch. And that's why I set up the other camera. And I also want to show you what you can do after you do the nun stitch, because you can just cut this piece of fabric off. And a nun stitch is a great edging stitch, and you can see you don't really need a lot of room to do it. This one I did over 4 threads. So I did this one over 4 threads. And I think I did it over 3 or 4. I believe it's 4. I did something recently. It was something else I was working on that I did over 2, and that took a long time. So I started this one over 2. I was like, oh no. And I took it out and I did it over 4. And so it looks pretty tidy, but it allows you to have a finished edge that if you were doing something with fringe on it, like you could pull all these threads out and they could just be fringy, or you can cut them. And I want to show you one that I cut. And this is something else that I'm going to share with you tonight. But you can see on the top of that, I actually did an unstitch there, and then I cut it. And I think this one I did over 3. So I did it over 3, and then I just cut the fabric off, and then the last thread or so that was still there, I just pulled it off. And then this is what the back of the nun stitch looks like. You can see it's really secure there. Not my stitching, but this part up on the edge that's behind it. So a nun stitch is a great way to finish an edge. If you do something dumb like I did, or if you just need a finished edge, which is actually what I wanted to do on this this guy here. And I don't know if I can make this full screen. I'm going to try it. I don't know if it's going to work. Let's see. Yeah, didn't work. So I'll figure that out for next time. But for now, you can see up here in the, maybe I can do it down here. Let's see if I can do it down here. Okay. So now I think you have that guy full screen. And I don't know that that's helpful or not, though. It's kind of crazy wonky looking. Okay. So that looks to me a little out of focus. But I'll leave it there for a minute because I want to talk to you about it. A nun stitch has a rhythm to it. And that rhythm, you can go over however many threads you want to. But the stitch itself, you're basically going to wrap twice. Now, I pulled a thread. You can see I pulled a thread here. I'm going to use these scissors so you can see it. I pulled a thread here to make this gusset so that it showed me better where to stitch. And that helps me be able to do the stitch. I'm actually going to get rid of this bigger screen because I don't think it's helping too well. I think it's out of focus. Are you guys still with me? Okay. So you've got these teeth. It looks like a comb. So you've got these teeth. And this one on this particular piece of linen, I'm going over 4 threads. It's how I did the bottom down here. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to cut that in just a minute. But I want to show you the rhythm. And so to start the nun stitch, I may have to go back to the bigger screen. Sorry. Okay, you said it looked good. Okay, we'll go back. Let's go back because that'll make it better for you to see. Okay, So, to start the nun stitch, you see I'm kind of using a sewing motion there. Ugh. I'm sorry, I hope I don't make you sick doing that. I'll figure this out. Kind of using a sewing motion there. But you are kind of working toward yourself. So the way this is situated is facing me, and you can see in the smaller picture, you can see a bigger picture of it. It's facing me, and I'm working toward myself, and I'm right-handed. And if you were left-handed, you might have to flip this the other way and work it the other direction. But to start it, you just kind of anchor it. I don't know if you can see. You can see it in the small picture there. You can see it in the big picture too. I just kind of anchored that first stitch, and I just went around a couple times. And you can tell some of this looks like I've gone around it more than twice because I probably did. Okay, so let me see if I can get this up here where you can see it. So coming up underneath here, this is stitch number 2, I think. Let me get it going again, and then I can tell you. Okay, so when you come underneath, it's hard for me to. Sorry, I'll quit complaining here. Are you guys sure that big picture's in focus? You say it is. Okay, Lilena says it is too. Okay, so when you come underneath, let me get to a different picture. Maybe I can see it better that way. Okay, I can see it better over here. When you're coming underneath, that is the second stitch from above. So we're going to call this number 2 because you see it laid a thread down on the tooth on the comb that was poking out. So that was the second pass for that. Now I'm going to give it the first pass for this stitch, even though it's already coming out, because it's the first time it lays on top. So this is the first leg of this stitch. I think I picked up 3 threads there, so that's 4. So this is the first leg of this stitch. That's 1, because you've got 1 thread laying on top. And then the second leg, it's going to lay on top a second time, but at the same time, you're going to bring it up at the end of your comb. And it's hard for me to see here because I'm just looking at it weird, but you'll move a lot faster. I was moving faster too. So it's 4 threads between the teeth of the comb and 4 threads down there. And like I said, you can do it 3, you can do it 2. I've done it both ways in the last couple days. But this is going to be the second leg of that bottom stitch that makes the body of the comb. So that's number 2 for that. Okay? It's not number 1 for the tooth part of the comb yet because you've not laid a stitch on top. So now I'm going to come back under and come up in that same hole. This is going to be stitch number 1 for the tooth part because I laid a thread on top. You can see it there now, right? And then I come under it again and lay it another one. But this time, the second one always moves. And so this time I'm going to come out down here. So I'm going to count over 4 threads and come out down here. And this is the second stitch because it's laying on top of that one for the second time. I don't want to catch it like that, okay? So that's number 2. So the number 2 always is starting in a different direction. It's either moving down the body or it's creating another tooth on number 2, right? Now the first stitch of this leg, because it's laying down a flat part on the body of the comb, it's the first time that you see it on top. So that's 1. 2 for this, I'm going to go back into that same hole up there, but I'm coming up here. Just trying to make sure I'm in the right spot. And I'm coming up on the comb side. And that's 2. You see how I moved to a different spot on 2. And so now to lay the first stitch of that leg, or the first leg of that stitch, that's 1 because I passed over that tooth once. And then the second one I'm moving again. So I'm coming down here on the body of the comb. Okay, and so that's 2. Right? And so you kind of get a rhythm here. And so 1, because you're laying your first stitch across the body. And then 2, you're moving up to a different spot, coming in a different place. Does that make sense? to you guys? See your comments here. Let me get back to where I can see you. Every stitch is done twice. That's right, Susan. Higher, please. I am off screen. I'm sorry. I'm in the little screen, but I'm not in the big screen. Okay. Let me get it to where I can do it now. Okay. Let me try again. Okay. I'll try to hold it right here. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm going to trust that it's not blurry for you because it looks blurry on the screen. Okay. So every stitch gets laid twice. So I'm up here at the end of a tooth. And I am now going to lay the first stitch of the tooth, right? Because it's the first time it covers up on top of the fabric. So that's leg number 1 on the tooth. Now leg number 2 on the tooth, it covers that little body for the second time. I'm going to come out down here. So it's kind of a sewing method. So on the second leg of the stitch, you're always moving, right? You're going to come out on the next part of it. So that was number 2 for that tooth. Okay, and then to get number 1 for the body, because it's the first time the thread lays on top, coming back to that hole, and that's the first leg of that stitch. Okay, now the second leg of the stitch, we're moving again, remember? So I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to try to keep it in the right spot, so it may not be exactly 4 threads, and it'll be okay if it's not. Because I can't see it from here. I need my Herschel cat down here to help me. Okay, so this now is the second leg of the stitch on the body, because this is the second time that thread's going to cover up that body part of the comb. Okay, so that's 2 for that, leg number 2 for that. Okay, now let's do leg number 1 for this. Now I was off a thread. That's okay. So this is number 1, because I covered that tooth part once with the thread. You can see that. And now I'm going to cover it again. But the second time I'm moving, the second leg of the stitch, you're always coming out in a different spot. So this one now I'm coming out on the body down here. So that's number 2. That's the second leg of that stitch. Okay, good. Hey, Michelle. You can only see one screen. You can only see the big screen. So you can't see the little screen. Okay. But you can see me stitching, right? We'll worry about getting me back over on the other one later, because I just wanted to show you this. So it's a rhythm. It's always 2. So there's no stitch laying on top on that right now. So this is going to be leg number 1, and that's how you know whether you're on the first leg or the second leg. If you see a thread laying there on top, then you've already done 1 stitch of that. If you do more than 2, it doesn't really matter. You can't really tell that much. So that was leg number 1 of that stitch. Now, because this is leg number 2, we're going to move where we come out at. And so now we're up on the tooth part of the comb. So that's number 2 for that part, for that stitch. Now, there's no stitch up here, so this one must be number 1. So that's the first part, and you see now there's a stitch up there. We've done 1 leg of that. Now the second leg is where we move and we come out down here. Okay, now you've covered that tooth twice, so that's why that's the second leg. And you've not covered this at all. So you know you haven't done your first leg of this stitch. Okay, so that's 1, and then 2 up here. If I can get there. 2. Okay. 1, because I'm laying down a stitch now on top, so you can see it on top. 1. 2 is where you move. 2. Okay. like a double reverse buttonhole. Maybe. I don't know. Kendra, you're probably right. But it does look like a buttonhole. I don't know the double reverse buttonhole. I've probably done it, but I'm not good at remembering the names and stuff all the time. Um, so I hope this helps you a little bit. This is the rhythm of it. 2 legs, and you get in a rhythm, and you can cover 2, 3, 4 threads. You're basically trying to secure the edge thread. And so now I'll come down and I'll finish coming down through here, and you usually work toward yourself. Susan, you can tell us maybe if you're left-handed, do you still work toward yourself or do you work away? Now, I want to show you this one again. So you see how the edge is on that one. This is the top side of it. And I've already cut it there. And I just pulled out the last thread. Okay, now I'm going to cut this one. I'm going to get it to where you can see me cut it. And I haven't finished doing my edge stitch down here, but I'm pretty sure it'll be okay. I want you to see me cut it. I'm going to have to find my spot. Okay. Okay. Alrighty. Taking a big chance here since I'm cutting way away from my body, but we're going to do it. Now, with my cut, I don't want to cut the end of my thread. So I'm going to leave one thread on there. And I'm going to cut down through there, leaving that one thread. And then at the end, I'll go back and pull that little thread off. Because I'm just being cautious. So, oh, backwards. Okay, here you go. I think you can see me now. And if I do cut that last thread, it'll be okay as long as I don't cut my teeth. Which is what I'm trying to do. And honestly, if you did, you could just go back over it with another thread and make it look good, because it's not going to come out at this point. You'd have to cut a whole bunch of them. You see me cutting it? This might not be what you came for tonight. I'm sorry. Potluck. Welcome to the house. This is what we're serving tonight. Okay. So you see I cut it. Yeah, teeth always point out, Susan said. Pull a thread where you're cutting. Yeah, I did. I pulled a thread. Well, I didn't pull a thread where I was cutting. I pulled a thread where I was stitching, but you can pull a thread where you're cutting. That would probably help. And then you wouldn't have to do what I'm getting ready to do, which is pull the thread. So if you want to cut that little thread at the end of the teeth and pull it before you cut, that's a good idea. And that's what Susan said, and she's the expert. So I would say that's a good idea. Yeah, to be safe, pull a thread, Barbara. Yeah. So you can pull a thread, and I'm just going to pull mine there at the end. So, and that's all there is to it. And it's secure on the back and secure on the front. And I will finish my edge stitch on this, and then I'll do the edge stitch on the other side. And you can see I based it on this side so that I could see where to stitch, because there were lots of different, there was a lot of space between all this stuff and lots of motifs and stuff, and I just wanted to know where to stitch. Now I'll go back in and fill in these empty spots here with some other little motifs and stuff, and maybe some buttons and things like that, and get that going. So yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. When you start, do you knot it? I do. And I don't know what Susan will say about that. I do tie a knot, and I try to bury that knot somewhere. Like on this one, you can see I kind of started in a hem, and I actually went up behind and underneath this hem and tucked my knot in to where you can't see it. And then I went over that first tooth twice. And I always start with the tooth part, and then I do the base of the comb second. But I always start with the tooth part. Yeah, so Susan's class is coming up at the 1st of June. So this is going to be a little pocket. And it's actually laying on top of the part that actually has the pocket. So I'll probably make my hemmed piece into a pocket, and have a pocket here, but there's also a pocket in here, which is really nice. So just wanted to share that with you and show you, the goof I made, because lots of people make a goof like that. This is a regular hem stitch, and it turned out fine. But you see, I kind of made this one look like a hem stitch, even though it has an unstitch on the edge, because I just went through and in that place where I had pulled a thread, I went through and kind of did a back stitch and just pulled the threads every 3 or 4 threads or whatever, just to make it look okay. Knots are good. Yeah, so Susan says knots are good. History shows us that, just not for cross stitch. So, yeah, like a lot of Italian stitching and hem stitching, traditionally, and Susan taught us this from her studies in Italy, they started that stuff with a knot. And if you think about the utilitarian purposes of a lot of things that they made, because they would launder it, wash it, and use it, and so it needed to be secure. So anything that I am going to, be using that's kind of utilitarian, I'll try to hide a knot in there if I can. I just don't put a knot on the back of anything that would make it show on the front. So if you, for example, if you had a lot of knots in your cross stitch, like if you look at my cross stitch, you don't see any knots. You see me tucking threads under, and sometimes I start with a pin stitch and so on and so forth. The only time I use a knot is when I'm doing some kind of finishing, or like a hem stitch or this nun stitch. Knots are good when you can't see them. But if I had knotted the back of my cross stitch, especially if it was a framed piece, it would cause it to pucker on the front, and you would see all this weird lumpiness on the front of your piece. And that's the main reason why we don't put knots on the back, is because they show through the front. They either show through because you can actually physically see the knot or the thread, or you can see the little lump that it leaves. And so that's the reason not to put a knot on the back. But there's different ways that you can start. You can start with a pin stitch. You can start with like the needle point, because a lot of needle point pieces, you have a lot of open canvas. And so you learn some different ways to start there, like with an L stitch. And I know some of you guys probably start with the loop method. There's a lot of different ways to start where you don't have to use a knot. I'm pretty old school traditional. I'll run it under a lot, or I'll start with a pin stitch if I've got a single thread like this. So now this design here, this motif here, is called the stair steps of life because of the ups and downs in life. And Susan researched that for the lecture that she's going to give on the Dutch sampler. These two are from a Dutch sampler. And so that's what that's from. And it's a real pretty motif. Have I seen the antique cross-stitch pieces with knots? Have I seen antique cross-stitch pieces with knots? Vicky, I haven't actually. And I've opened up the back of a lot. I have seen them with crazy threads hanging everywhere, and with a lot of jumping around with the threads because they were little girls. But I actually have not seen an antique sampler anyway, cross-stitch piece with knots on the back. Susan, I don't know if you have or not, but that probably would have gotten a little hand popped back in the day when such things. Oh, Susan says she's seen a lot of knots on the back of cross-stitch pieces. So, yeah. And I guess it depends on, what school of samplers you're looking at. A lot of mine are English, and then I've got a number of Dutch. I've just not seen a lot of knots. I've seen people jumping around a lot, and a lot of threads laying around. Linen's so loosely woven the knots would pull through. Yeah, that's true too. On a lot of the rustic linen, they would have pulled through. So, but Susan says she's seen some, so they're out there. Yeah, starting to hold a needle at 3 years old. Yeah, I learned pretty young. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you with that. So you learned a couple things here. You learned that you can make a mistake and you can survive. Because I did, right? A pretty drastic mistake, I might add. And you can survive. And it looks fine, right? And nobody's going to look at this and say, why did you do a hem stitch up there and a nun stitch down there and on the sides? Because this is the top, so it gives it a little more thickness on the top, which will be a pocket anyway, so it'll be fine. I could have done a hem stitch on the edges, but I didn't really want to take up that much room, to be honest, is why I didn't. Wasn't planning to originally on the edges. So you learn that you can make a mistake and you can survive. You learned a little bit about basting. And I don't baste a lot. And anybody who ever stitches with me will tell you that this is not my favorite thing to do. But when you're doing something like this, it's kind of a band technique where you have an edge on one side. If you don't do that basting stitch, you're not, it's hard, right? I mean, think about the last time you saw the edge was up here, and the next time you see it's down here. You know, it's kind of a pain to figure out where the real edge is. On the edge that you start on, it's a little different because most of the stuff starts over there, and you can kind of make sure that you're getting stuff in the right place. But I baste when I'm doing any kind of band sampler, whether it's little like this or big, especially on the big ones. Now, on the big ones, I would have basted the left edge because that's where I start. Because I would have made sure that I started in the same place every time. On the left edge on a large sampler, I would have basted this left edge, and I have on some. The other thing that I've done, like on the little band sampler that we did for Hannah Longstreth, and I think I might have also done it on Red February, is I'll baste down the middle. I'll find the middle and baste straight down the middle. Will I back it? Yeah, I will put something on the back, Judy. I'll probably put wool on the back. I could do something fusible, but I know I'll be putting like scissors in there. And because really what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little tiny mother of pearl buckle that I have right in here. And I'm going to run a ribbon from that buckle to the scissors that I will just keep in the pocket. So that I can use the scissors when I'm at an event or whatever. But I'm not going to accidentally leave them on the table because they're going to be secured. And I'll show you that next week. I'll probably have it done by then. So yes, I will put something on the back because I'll have scissors in there. And I like to keep my room key in that pocket too. I'm bad to put it in my back pocket. I don't carry a purse a lot of places unless I have to. And if I do have a purse, it's a little bitty wristlet. It's not a real purse, and those get crowded. This pocket will be big enough for a phone too. Now, I don't know that I want my phone hanging off the front of my neck, but it'll be big enough for it. So I'll probably keep my little stitching toolies in there, but I'll probably put wool on the back. That's something I learned from season 2. Wool is very forgiving, and it's a good liner for a lot of things. Like the back of the big pocket has wool on it. That's wool. It's a really nice wool. And I've showed them Susan already the iron-on piece that says "Still Stitching with Susan" at Sassy School. So that's a wool back, and they're just really forgiving. They're forgiving to attach. They're very soft for scissors or other things you put in there. You can always jab a needle in it to keep it in there for a little while. Wool is great for your needles, and it's great for the points of your scissors. You don't have to worry about, too much them coming through. So I use wool a lot. Wool stretches when you stitch it on, and for that reason, I will often run a basting stitch down the middle of it while I'm attaching it. It creeps. It creeps while you're sewing it on. It will stretch if you put a lot of big stuff in it. But this is going to be right on the back of the piece, so it won't stretch because it won't be opening up. It'll just be laying there. And I've not had them when they're attached stretch out too much, but they will if you're putting stuff, in there and pulling on it, tugging on it. Yeah, but I just really like the feel of wool, but it will creep on you. Like I remember my mom, she was a commercial seamstress, and I forget what it was that she sewed that she said creeped really bad. Velvet does. If you've ever sewn velvet or velveteen, oh my gosh, it creeps so bad. And so the ticket for that is to either put pins in it and pin it down while you stitch it to make sure it doesn't move, or those little clippies that you get from the quilting world, those little plastic clips, mini clips, and clip it down. Or you can baste. You can just put a basting stitch, like a big plus, right in the middle of the wool, going all the way down vertically and all the way across horizontally in the middle. And that will hold it securely in place. And then you just pull your basting thread out at the end. That's a quick, easy way. And you don't have to worry about, the stitches being even or anything because you're going to pull it out. And the other thing I do is when I stitch with wool, if I'm going to see the stitches, I stitch it in the color of the wool or something that's complementary to that. Also learned that from Susan. On this piece, because I'm not going to see that wool, it's going to be on the inside of my little front pocket, I'll probably stitch it in this same gray that I'm using to do the nun stitch and the hem stitch. And I'll probably just do a back stitch right down the edge of that nun stitch and attach that wool. All the way around those 3 edges. That's probably exactly what I'll do. And attach that wool there. And that way it'll be right on the edge. So I hope that helps. Yeah, thanks, Rhonda. So I wanted to show you. You guys are quiet tonight because I'm preaching, aren't I? I'm on my box. I don't do this on the Friday nights too often. I wanted to show you this piece and talk about it too, because I had a plan with this that I didn't quite finish. What type of thread did I use on? Okay, well, that's something else to talk about on this piece. I did something that I don't usually do. I used 103 Avera Soie silk. And I don't typically use 103. This is a 37 count linen. I don't use it on a 37 count because I have personally always believed, and it was my experience, that it was too thin in coverage. But looking at this, I'm happy with the coverage. And that's a single strand of 103. All of this was. So, you know, that's what it looks like on this particular linen on 37 count. It looks fine to me. Now, you may want it to be a thicker look, and if that's the case, you would have to use 2 strands of silk or floss. You could usually I use 103. I only recommend it on like a 46 count and above, or over 1 on 40 count or, 37 count or something. But I actually really like the way this looked. And it doesn't really look that delicate to me. It might to some of you, and that's where you would jump to 2 threads. But I enjoyed stitching with the 103. I'll show it to you, and I'll show you how I keep it. And this is also something that we're going to do for you guys too. And it's an old trick, but I took a piece of can you see that okay? I took a piece. You can see my end popped off that one, which unfortunately it's an end that has the number on it, so I'm gonna have to glue that one back on, or otherwise I won't know the number. But this is just a I might have talked about this somewhere, I can't remember. It's just a I think I did last week. It's a rayon seam binding from Hug Snug, and I just cut a length of it that would fit into these silks, and I tied a little knot, and it just keeps these together for me. And this is the palette that I used on that piece. It was these 4 threads. I used the green, the blue, the gray, and the red. And you can't see the green too much on there. It really didn't show up that much. The gray and the green looked very similar. But I used those colors because it kind of looked good with the background of the pocket. And so we're going to start, if you order like several spools from us, we're going to cut like, I don't know, a half a yard of this and put it in this stuff and put it in with your order. And then you just take it and you can thread it through a big eye needle and run it through the holes, or you can, come up with your own method to get it through there. If you had a bodkin, you could use a bodkin, but I used a yarn needle, a plastic yarn needle. 103 is just solids, but this silk that's used, I might be wrong, but I don't think so. I think this same silk that's used to make Avera Soie 103 is what they use to make Tudor silk, which is overdyed. So I believe that Tudor silk, not there's a thinner one than Tudor too, and I can't remember what it is now. I don't remember what the thinner one is. But I think that Tudor silk is this 103 Soie d'Alger overdyed. And Tudor silk comes from Gloriana. They do beautiful threads, and we'll be carrying Gloriana when we open back up. We haven't brought them in yet because we've got so much stuff to move. I don't want to add something else to it. So I've already talked to her about ordering them, but we'll be carrying Gloriana, and we'll carry some Tudor silk. Pashima could be. And you hate when you break it. Yeah, Chronic and 103. I do too, Patty. That's no fun because On Chronic, and Chronic is changing. I don't know if you guys knew that. Chronic is actually changing their spool size and their type so that they won't have a sticker on the end. You know how Chronic has a sticker, and if you lose the sticker, you've lost the number? Well, they've actually gone back and retooled, and they're going to be, they did this so that they could get their supplies within the U.S. because they just weren't able to keep up with demand. And they actually are changing the size of their spools and the way that it's made so that the production is faster and they can get supplies from the U.S. But that number now is not going to be on that sticker on the end. I think it's going to be on the spool. I haven't seen one yet. We'll have to talk to Doug Chronic and see if he can maybe join us one night and give us a little spiel. Swasserfene is the thinner version of 103. So, and it's very thin. And we do have Swasserfene. So we've got Swasserfene, 103, and Swat Alger. And those are the 3 lines of stitching silk, usually. Normal, what you might use for cross stitch on the different counts. And then we brought in Soie Gobelin, which is just beautiful. I love it. And Soie de Paris, which are thicker and shinier. And thicker, you strand it down to where it's thinner, like a normal strand of silk. But it comes with like 3 big strands. Or actually, Soie de Paris may come with more than that. I say that, I can't remember now. It's more. I'm stitching with it on a whitework sampler. Now I don't remember because it's been a while since I picked that up. I know you guys will know. But anyway, I can show those to you next week. Because what I wanted to do with this little band sampler here is show you how different threads stitch out. And I thought that would be fun. And so this one is actually the overdyed from Anchor. And I cut a yard off of it. And you can see how the color is changing. So, you know, I started with the dark side and it's going through the red. And the rest of what's on my yard is that bright red color. So it just flip-flops back and forth between the dark red and the bright red on the Anchor. So that one is Anchor 1026. That's what that is on this spool. Now, DMC 115 is a very similar color, and I will show you that too. I just didn't have time to stitch it. But I had these anchors, and I wanted to see what these look like. And I've got a pink one somewhere too. And then I've got a solid one. So when you think about Bristol samplers, that'd be beautiful. The thing with a variegated thread like that, and it's cotton thread, is that you do have to cross each X as you go. So I'll finish this out. And I'll let this space over here so I can write. I'm going to write with a pen, a fabric pen, what it is, and the number of it, you know, and how many strands I use so that I know it can be a little reference tool. And then I'll do these other colors down through here. Yeah, Kathy, yeah, she did, yeah. So she's an expert on the threads, Michelle, you're right. So let me get rid of our spammer there. They might be right, it might be boring. Let's ban Bozo the Clown. Poor Bozo. See ya, Bozo. Hey, Janice. You know you've got some good viewers when you get some spammers on there. So I'm going to do this with the anchors first, and then I'm going to pick up that DMC 115, and I'm going to show it to you and do that. But I'm going to record on the side what it is, and this will be my little reference tool. And what I did is I just pulled a little scrap of banding that we had somewhere so that it was easy for me to use. And you see I did that nun stitch up there. So 115, yeah, 115 is beautiful. No, we don't need any new bozos, do we? We can clown around on our own. So that's what I wanted to show you, because we talked about that one time, how that thread turned out, and I thought you would enjoy seeing how the color changes in that variegation and what that might look like. And I'll do that with the others. And then if you're interested in it, I'll do it with the silks, and we'll just see how the silks look. So we'll start with, you know, like a Soie Alger, and then we'll go through the Avera Soie lines and show the Soie de Paris and the Soie Gobelin. And then we can do the needlepoint ink silk, and then when we get Gloriana, we can do that too. Whatever you want to see with that. I just thought it was a good little reference tool, and it would help you guys visualize how the color changed on that. So that's that. Are you up for that? Does that sound like something you'd like to see with the threads, especially these anchors, since they're kind of new to us, and see like what do they really look like? It's hard for me to imagine what this is going to look like, this orange and cream. And the same is true with this green and cream. I'm kind of like, yeah, I think it's not a bad thing, Melanie, to have something like that for yourself. And if you're using a scrap, which we all have scraps, you can just write on it. I don't think you need to take the time to stitch out what it is with the thread. You can just write it on there because you'll just put it in your little kit. And then when you're thinking about what to use, you can take a look at it and you'll see. Okay. And I want to share another thing with you. So, do you know what this weekend is in Marion, which is a close place to us? It's Bigfoot weekend. So it's Bigfoot enthusiasts come from all over the place to come to the Bigfoot Festival in Marion, which is not very far away. Um, and so because it's Bigfoot weekend, and I saw it on the news right before I came down here, I thought I would show you one of the projects that I've been working on. And it's actually it's a cryptid stitch, and so it comes from a designer called the Witchy Stitcher, and she does funny little caricature things. And this one she started last year, and it just happened to be cryptids, which are kind of not real creatures. You see this last one here, I don't know if you can see it, is a Yeti. And can you guys see the Yeti on there? And the Bigfoot was the last one that she released, and it started with Mothman, which is up here. And then, you know, you never heard of that, huh, Rachel? Well, you're missing it. And a chupacabra, which I had to struggle to learn how to say. There's a restaurant here called Chupacabra. And so I had, and a jackalope. Everybody's heard of a jackalope. I think he's so cute with his little tooth. So look at his little tooth on the jackalope, a little tooth. Um, and this is the Yeti, which is kind of the Asian version of the abominable snowman. So there's 16 cryptids on here, and I kind of been going at my own pace. You know, this is an easy thing for me to stitch. It's actually stitched on hog bristle from Fox and Rabbit, and it's an early piece of it. Yeah, she did, and hers was beautiful. Karen just finished hers on red. No, a Yeti's not real. Well, Ara, I take that back. There were people who will argue with me about that. So, and that's the funny part about these cryptids is there's documentation of all these little creatures somewhere, but whether or not they're real is up to your interpretation of the documentation. Um, I do have some fiber on a whim, and I've stitched on, and I like it. Okay, I'm gonna lose my needle here. I'm gonna have to take it out. Okay, so the reason that I bring this up was obviously because of the Bigfoot weekend in Marion, and then she's coming out with a new one, and it's gonna be supernatural instead of cryptids. So it'll also be Bigfoot isn't real. I'm sorry, Teal. I'm sorry. I hated to spring that on you. I should have chosen my words more carefully. He might be real. He might be. He's hard to spot. I'll put it that way. And some of the people that stitched Bigfoot, like, left his spot open and put some footsteps leading off from it. It was so cute. So people have done some really cute stuff with this one. And they're all just kind of, funny little creatures. There's one that I don't like. It looks like a big worm, and I'm not going to stitch it. The last character, she gave us 3 choices, and so I'm going to pick one of the others and put in that spot, just because I don't care for worms too much. I know they serve a purpose, but I'm not going to stitch one with a big giant mouth. It's not okay with me. So, I'm excited about the next one too, and I was kind of trying to finish this one, but I don't know that I'll get finished. That's a Herschel hair. I'm trying to get off of it. Um, so I think I might do the supernatural one, but I'm kind of picky about that stuff. Like, I don't like really scary things. And so I don't mind stitching, like a Frankenstein and a witch and a ghost. But if it gets super scary, I don't know if I can do that. So, but I'm signed up for it. I've already downloaded my stuff, and I'm excited about it. So we'll see what the supernatural ones are. I just hope they're not too scary. As long as they're kind of caricatures, I'll be fine. But like, I can't watch scary movies because I won't sleep. It's not okay. So, hey Rose, you're okay. And the other thing that's kind of fun with this is that a lot of people bought this giant cone of DMC. Can you guys see that okay? I can't tell which picture you're actually seeing, but it's a big giant beast of a thing. And so they nicknamed it the Cone of Doom because it's all black. So, a shop here that sells 7-foot metal Bigfoots. That's funny. Some people have them in their yards. That's really funny. Well, there's enough woods around here that you could spot a Bigfoot if you were looking careful enough. My brother is a big guy. He's 6'4", 6'5", and he played college football. And his nickname was Yogi because he was like a big bear. And they always tease him about looking like a Bigfoot because he's kind of furry and stuff. So some point I'm going to stitch him a Bigfoot. But this is the Cone of Doom. So because it's so huge and it's all black thread. So I don't know that I'll ever get this used, but we'll probably, it's DMC thread. It's just on a cone. Yeah, I don't know if you can see inside the thing of it, but it actually says it's DMC. And I ordered it from DMC for my personal stash. But we may actually strand some thread off of it and sell it a little bit cheaper than our skeins. Because the skein has 8.7 yards. And, we've got, I don't know how many yards this thing had on it. What? They sell it by weight. 2,100 meters. So however many yards that is, 2,100 meters. So that's way more than 2,100 yards. 50 yards of 310. And 3371. Yeah, 3371 I like too. And I have a hard time keeping that in stock right now. But so anyway, you might see us like we've done with some of our hanks of silk. You might see us actually make a little tag and share some of our Cone of Doom with you. A little bit cheaper than we can sell the skeins for since we've got this giant cone. So anyway, thought I would share that with you. It was funny because they made a whole caricature of it, of a little cryptid for a Cone of Doom. He had little wings and stuff. It was super cute. So that's what I had. Okay, so that's all my stuff. Let me see if I can get myself back on here and we can chat for a few minutes. I don't know if I can manage it. If I can get back on here now that I've messed around with it all so much. We'll see. We'll see. There we go. Can you see me now? Can you see me now? Oh my gosh, it's been over an hour. I'm so sorry. I went through all that stuff and I talked to you for an hour without you being able to see me. Add 10%. We'll give you the yards. Yeah. Thank you, Melanie. I need somebody to do the math for me. You need that big thing of black. Yeah. Well, that's cool. So you can order a big cone. And like I said, I had to order it from DMC. And people order them from different places. But honestly, DMC shipped it really quick. And when I needed a whole bunch of 115 and I couldn't find it at any of my distributors, I actually ordered it directly from DMC. And I paid retail for it, which is fine because for me, it's just kind of I have it so that you can get it if you need it. But I didn't mind paying retail and then just selling it right back to you. Over 2,000 yards. Yeah, thanks, Inez. So I'll never use all that black DMC. So we'll probably put it on a little tag and sell some to you a little bit cheaper. But that's why I have it, is for these stitches that need all the black, and they're just fun to do. Does anybody have any questions or anything that you want me to talk about or answer before I let you go eat your supper? And I hope this format was okay. I won't do it every week, but I just wanted to show you the nun stitch. Oh, Cindy. So how's Oregon, Cindy? Can you ask an opinion? You like Roses for Ruby by Scarlet House. You want to stitch it with the called for threads on Affogato by Fiber on a Whim. I've not seen that linen. But I will look it up. But maybe other people have. So has anybody seen Affogato, which I think maybe Affogato or Affogato by Fiber on a Whim? And yeah, the hem stitch. I can do the hem stitch. I'll try to do that next week because I've got some things I need to hem stitch. I still need to hem stitch my Red February. So what thread did I use on the hem? I used the 103, Barbara, and I liked it. It was fine. Hey Crochet Enclave. Sometimes I like to do hem stitching with a linen thread, and that was also something I inherited from Susan. I love stitching with linen thread, and I will very often, if I'm doing a hem stitch, jump over to a linen thread, and a lot of people use a pearl thread. I don't really love pearl cotton. I don't know why. I just never have. I use it in needlepoint when I have to, but I don't love it. Last week it was mentioned that there might be a possibility of switching times. Okay, starting later. You got up there last night. Oh gosh. Well, thank you for joining after being up there. I did use just one thread, Barbara. I did on the hem stitch. Now on the name tag, I was using just one thread. Yeah, the only thing I used two threads on was the little band sampler on the this. I used two threads on that, but everything else I've shown you tonight was a single strand. I'll put it that way. Yeah, I'll do the hem stitch. Hem stitch has been hard for me. Susan will tell you I always have a hard time starting that, and I usually have to get help. But I was able to do it, yesterday with no problem. Some of it is just getting over the fear of starting it, and for me, I'm right-handed, but for some reason, I do a lot of stitches backwards. And so Susan and I have talked about that, and she wondered if maybe I was originally left-handed and they switched me to being right-handed, and I don't remember that. I think I've always been right-handed, but I think I've watched her do stitching so much, and I've spent, 15 years watching Susan stitch. I think that because I'm facing her, I've got that mirror image ingrained in my head. And so I try to start it backwards every time. But I think I've got it. So I was able to do it right this week, and I will maybe a grayish tinge to it. But I will yeah, I'll show you the hem stitch. You were left and got switched to right as a kid. Yeah, Dab, that was really common. Especially if you were redheaded. Because, there was a point in time where if you had red hair and were left-handed, you know, they thought you might be a witch. And, so a lot of people would switch kids over to being right-handed. I don't think that happened to me. I think I am right-handed because I really can't do a lot with my left hand. I think mine is just from watching my teacher stitch, looking at her, and stitching in a mirror. I think it's in my head. I don't think I try to do it. I just think it's in my head. Like one time I was living in London and I was working over there, and I had been there for a while, and I might have told you this story. And I had a friend come over. She was actually on my team, but most of my team members, most of the people that worked for me, I liked a lot. And so I would call them friends, and they are friends still to this day. And so my friend Carrie came over and we worked. And then on the weekend, we went off to visit another country. And we were in, this particular time, we were in Italy. And I did not have a car when I lived in London because I didn't want to drive over there. I didn't even ride my bike over there. Hey, Melanie, have a good week. Yeah, rinse out your hair, and thank you for hanging out with us. And we were driving in Italy, and Carrie goes, Kim, I think you might be in the wrong lane. And just from, having lived in London for a while, I think I was there like a year or so at that point. And I spent a lot more time over there working. I would just come home every 3 weeks. I think in my head it just switched. And sure enough, I was in Italy, which drives on the same side of the road that we do, but I was driving on the left, just like I was in London. And it was crazy. There was a car coming straight at us. So, he never switched, always reverted to his left hand, and he had red hair. Yeah, so it's a thing about redheads. Hey, Beth, welcome. I hope your shed turned out okay. I sat in the Beth chair last night on Fiber Talk. I hope I did okay. It was fun. But, yeah, I think my mind does things without me telling it to sometimes. Like sometimes if I'm typing too, and I'm self-taught to type, but I can type really fast and really well. I skip letters. It's like I'm just so far ahead that I've skipped things and I'm already typed out something else. It's weird. I don't know. Or it could just be that I'm broken. It happens. I can't crochet. I learned to crochet as a little kid and then I forgot. Yeah, you're right-handed, Rachel. I think I am too. I think I just like to stitch backwards. I just like to be difficult. Now that does come with the red hair. So I definitely like to be difficult. Somebody tailgated me today coming home, and in my neighborhood, I couldn't believe it. I was so offended. And it was a big, huge truck, and it was brand new, like shiny blue giant truck, and and I got into the lane to turn onto my road, and he was like so close to my bumper that I couldn't even see his face. And I don't usually take that too well. And so I was just surprised. And I was driving the speed limit. I wasn't driving over the speed limit because it's in my neighborhood. It's a back country road. There's, 2 days ago, I was going to tell you this story. I told Gary, I didn't get you guys told. 2 days ago, I'm coming home on the same road, and I had just gone out the road to get some breakfast, and I was coming back. And going out, I passed 3 bicyclists because people like to ride these country roads. There's lots of curves and hills. And coming back home, then I ran into the same bicyclists, but they were stopped in the middle of the road around a curve. Now we have lots of curves and hills and stuff, which is why you don't speed. And so I came up on these folks, and they were stopped, the bicyclists, and they were flagging down traffic. So they got me stopped, and they had a big giant truck stopped coming toward us. And there was a woman in the road, chasing 2 tiny little goats with halters on. So they had little leashes and halters, and they were little bitty goats, and they were supposed to be little goats. They weren't like baby goats. They were just little goats, and they were probably not as tall as your knee. And she's like chasing them, and the bicyclists have their bikes, and they're trying to herd the goats. Like they're moving their bikes around to keep the goats, to try to get the goats to go back to the owner. But for some reason, she never reached down and grabbed their collar, which I would have done. But goats, that's probably why goats don't like me. I think I told you that. I'm not a goat person. So there I was sitting in my car. I'm like, should I get out and try to help her with the goats? Because I know they won't like me. And finally, I got out to open the door to help her with the goats, but she'd got them. She was like, oh, I'm okay. I was like, okay, good. And we all got back in our cars and drove off. And the same day, I saw a huge giant turkey in the road. And I mean, you don't speed in your own hometown, especially around here, because you come around a curve, there's a bike, there's a turkey, there's a couple of goats with some leashes on them running around. There's some cows in the road. I mean, you just don't know what you're going to see. And so here this guy was tailgating me, and in my own neighborhood, and I'm going the speed limit. Anyway, I thought about pulling over. And I was like, I'm just going to go home and tattle on him. So I came home and I told Everett. I was like, there was a guy that tailgated me, and he hollered out his window, and he did. Like when he turned off the road, he like rolled his window down, and he was screaming at me, and my window was rolled up. I don't know what his problem was. I didn't figure it out. I don't know. I guess he needed to get somewhere faster than what I was going. But it's not a good idea to speed on these roads. But it was pretty entertaining because I did come home and tattle. I was like, Everett, somebody tailgated me, and then he yelled at me. So you hit a wild turkey. Oh, and broke your windshield. Turkeys are big. They are good sized beasties. And Herschel and I saw a turkey. So I might have mentioned that we had all of this excavating going on behind our house. We were giving dirt away basically to the people who build roads, and they were taking the dirt off to fix whatever they were doing, and it gave us a bigger backyard. Well, they've now seeded all that red clay, so it's got grass seed all over it, and it's got hay all over it. And Herschel, my big black cat, and I were in the kitchen the other day, and there's some French doors. Well, actually, we were in the bathroom. We saw it from the bathroom, and then we had to run around to the French doors and watch it. There was a giant turkey out there, and he was eating as much grass seed as he could wrangle. But he was so big, and the closer he came down the hill, the closer he got to the house, the more Herschel like backed away. And Herschel's a big cat, but this bird was giant. So I hate that it broke your windshield, Deb. I'm glad you didn't get hurt. Yeah, you don't want to hit a turkey or a deer. They'll mess up your car, and surely it hurts them usually. So, anyway, that was my big adventure today. And then the other day, that was like 2 days ago, with the wrangling of the goats in the road on their leashes and the bicycles, and I was just like, it's fun to be back home. It's fun. Okay, so let's talk about the timing. So people have brought up they would like to start later. And I'm okay with that. And we could start later if you guys want to. So just maybe make a comment here or send me a note, whatever's easy for you, and let me know what you would prefer. And if you want to keep it private, then you can send me an email. You can send me an email to any of the Sassy Jack stuff. SassyJackStitchery@gmail.com is a good one, and I will take that into account, and we'll just basically take a vote on it. A new Buick commercial sets off Alexa in the other room. Why do they do that? I don't know why they do that. My phone came on and started asking me questions, and I don't have it set up to do any of that. It did that twice on my trip to Louisiana, and I was not happy. I feel like they're spying on me when they do that. So I get mad about it. I don't know why that happens, but yeah. So let me know about the time, and like I say, feel free to post it here. If you want to send a private message, you can do that too, and we'll figure out what's a good time. I'm happy to move it up to 7:30 or 8 o'clock, even if you want to do that. I know we're all in different time zones. It's fine for me. I know I'm hitting right at dinner time. And honestly, when I started this, I didn't envision that you guys would want to keep doing it. so I love that you show up and that we do it. And I appreciate everybody who watches. It's a lot of fun for me. So 7:30 or 8 would be good, Kathy. Okay. So, let me know what you think. It sounds like we're going to keep doing it until it's just me and me by myself. So we'll keep doing it, and I'll keep coming up with some fun stories for you. I have a lot of stories. I have so many stories. And that's my Scott-Irish heritage there coming out. You want to start at 4:30 or 5 Pacific time. That would be 7:30 or 8. So that works. And Cindy's in Oregon now. Yeah, so she'd probably like a later time too. Anytime's good. Later, please. So it sounds like the laters are, as long as it stays in the evening. Okay. At 6 o'clock, you like 6. So it's 6 o'clock your time when we start at 7. So you are an hour behind us. Yeah. When's the new store opening? Gosh, I wish I knew. We're getting closer all the time. We really are. I say that every week. My heart tells me it's going to be August. Maybe July. It could happen in July. It might happen in July. But my heart tells me for sure and certain we'll be open by August. So, but it's possible it'll be July. And, I don't have a lot of good excuses for it that I haven't already shared. It's just a lot. It's hard to do. So we're getting there. We're getting there. Salem, Oregon. Oh, that's pretty cool. You can do it anytime, 6 or 6:30 early. You like to go to bed. You know what? I like to go to bed early too. I'll be honest with you. And I can't stitch when I'm tired. I don't know about you guys, but I cannot stitch if I'm tired. Now, that's not to say that every once in a while I can't sleep and I don't stitch till like 3 or 4 a.m. because I will about once a month. Oh, you're coming to Asheville next month. Well, check back with me, B, because it's possible. There's some possibility. It's possible that we could have enough to show you, at least. So always check in with me. I don't mind that at all. Thanks, Beth. And so I know we're behind on orders. We've been shipping out. I've been by myself for a few weeks, so that's my struggle. So I've got a lot of stuff ready to go, and I shipped out some stuff this week. I know I've got some orders for Beth and Deb that I need to confirm some things, and we'll get you going. Well, I appreciate that, Rose. It could just be me and Herschel, but we talk to each other all day anyway. All right. Anyway, I'm looking forward to having you guys come visit us. I'm looking forward to doing these from the shop sometime too. So I will look at the notes that you tell me about timing, and we'll figure out what we can do. And anyway, I appreciate it. And I'm always surprised when you guys come on a Friday night. So, and it's a good surprise. I'm glad. I just didn't expect it. So it's fun. All right. I will see you guys next week. Sheila, and everybody have a good weekend and have a good week. And I hope you guys all had a good Mother's Day last week. I took some really, we went over to a bed of crimson clover. I don't know if you're on Facebook. I don't know if I posted them on Instagram, but crimson clover, and it was just beautiful, and took some pictures out there. It was fun. So anyway, I hope you guys all have a good week, and I will see you again next week. Bye.